Hello readers, and welcome back to Tell Between Tales. Today we are going to discuss the book Sabriel by Garth Nix. This is the book that I listened to from the library, and so I don't have a physical copy of it to show you today, so here's a picture. And we're going to discuss Sabriel and see how it holds up. All right, so Sabriel is a book that is in the young adult section, and I really enjoyed listening to this book. It was a very quick read, I suppose. I enjoyed listening to it, and it was a little bit iffy if I could listen to it with the other kids around, just because the subject matter, if they were paying attention to it, could be a little bit creepy, because the whole book is actually about necromancy. And so it's all about creatures of the dead. And so what you find out, though, really at the very beginning of the book, is that the main character is called Abhorsen. And, well, the main character is Sabriel. Her father is Abhorsen. And right at the very beginning of the book, you see a woman who comes into a camp and she dies, and then right after giving birth to a baby, and then the baby dies, and then they're going to bury them, and then this man named Abhorsen comes and says, no, we're going to baptize the baby. And as soon as the baby is baptized, this charter mark blazes on her forehead, and he slips into death, and he goes and pulls her out of death. And I really enjoyed the depiction of death, because you don't die and then immediately leave. It's like you enter death, and there are, I believe, 9 gates. And so you start at the first gate. And so he's going to find her at the first gate. He's trying to pull her out of death before she passes the first gate and bring her back to life, because this is his daughter, which is revealed at the very, 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 very beginning. It's not a spoiler. And so he saves her from death, and when he enters death, his body ices over, and you enter this land, and it's this river that's flowing towards the gates, and the river has a very strong current, and it pulls at you. So there is risk to entering death for a necromancer, because you can get caught in the current, or caught in an eddy, or hit like a deep pocket of water and fall into the current, and it can sweep you on through the gates. And there's specific ways that the necromancers traverse death. They go through the gates, and the job of Abhorsen is to bind the dead so that they don't walk in life, and to send them back, because there are a lot of them that are constantly trying to come back, because with the way that this river goes, you can go through it towards death, or you can actually walk back the other way if you are strong enough, or if you know the route to go. And so the necromancers, of course, they learn how to travel down and back across death. As long as you don't pass through the final gate, then you're good. And so the story, I really enjoyed the world that he created. It's very interesting because it has 2 distinct civilizations that are separated by a wall. And it kind of reminded me, it was giving me a little bit of maybe inspiration from Terry Goodkind, Wizard's First Rule, where everything behind the wall, which is called the Old Kingdom, is where the charter magic is, and the dead rise. And so all the magic is contained behind the wall. And that gets explained, like why that is, and how the wall holds everything back, and how that was all created gets explained later in the book. So the magic system in Sabriel is also really unique too. It actually has 2 different magic systems. You have the charter magic, which is the symbols, and it is the overall magic of the Old Kingdom. And Sabriel and a lot of the other people in the Old Kingdom know how to use it. They're called charter mages, and it's this system of symbols and thinking of symbols, and you have to envision these symbols in your mind, and you're able to have these symbols travel from your brain, like down through your body, or like out through your arm, and then they manifest in the real world. Like they'll either be burned into the ground or onto something, and that causes various different things to happen. And the other magic system is used only by the necromancers. And the necromancers use bells. And they use the bells, I believe there's 7 different bells that they use, and each different bell has a name, and they range in size from a very tiny, like this one, to very much larger bells, maybe not this big, but like a handbell. And they have little handles. They're very much like handbells, and they wear them in a bandolier across their chest. And the different tones, the tones are very important and they're very pure, and they do different things. Each bell does something different to the creatures of the dead. And so I thought that was a very, very interesting way just to have this kind of musical magic system. There's also, if you don't have bells, you can do whistles, and whistles actually are used to control the weather and to control the wind. And it's all based off of your tones for your whistling, and loud and soft and short and fast and pitch and everything. And that was also really, really fun. So I really liked the different varieties of magic that was offered in the book as well. And then there's like the regular civilization where they have technology and they have no magic. So the Old Kingdom doesn't have technology because they rely on their magic. Whereas like the other side of the wall, that kingdom does have technology and is progressing more like our own current civilization, but they're not as far up as where we are now, but they're not like set in the Middle Ages, which I thought was refreshing. They have cars, but their cars aren't as fast. I think their cars can go like, 30 miles an hour or something like that. And then they've got telephones, but they're wired, and you have to lay the telephone wire down. And so they have lights, and so they do have electricity and guns and stuff like that. But it doesn't work in the Old Kingdom. Like the magic of the Old Kingdom short circuits the technology, and it doesn't work. And so I thought that he did a really good job. He did a really good job creating his world and the magic system. And so we really follow Sabriel, and she gets raised outside of the Old Kingdom, and she's brought up in this basically a boarding school. And one day there's this inciting incident that launches her on her adventure, and she has to go back to the Old Kingdom. And I don't want to say too much about it because it was really fun to experience all of that going through, and seeing it all be unraveled without knowing a whole lot about it. But I really enjoyed, like I said, the way that it was set up. I thought it was a fresh take on necromancy, and it was a way to delve into the world of necromancy without it being like this evil thing. Well, although there was a lot of evil in it, but our main character's job, like she was not evil, right? Where necromancers, a lot of necromancers are looked down upon or seen as, oh, we got to stay away from them. Like the main character, with them binding the dead back and putting them back in their place, they were quite revered in civilization, and people looked up to them. And so I really liked the way that whole played out. And then there's also, a sense of, since Sabriel was raised outside of the Old Kingdom, as she goes back into her adventure, we learn a lot about the Old Kingdom with her, because she wasn't given like all the history, because outside of the Old Kingdom, they don't really know the history very well. They don't have maps of the Old Kingdom. And so it was very, very well done, and it was very interesting. And you spend a lot of time with the dead, and a lot of dead things that come after you or come after her. They don't come after you. But it was good. It was well done, and I really enjoyed reading it in the month of October, near the end of the October, because we've got all of course, Halloween coming up, and so that was good. That was fun. It was seasonal. There are 2 other books in the series. L'Ariel, I think is how you say it. and then Abhorsen. And I think I would like to read those, but I might not get back to them for a while because what the author does is he completely introduces a whole new character, and that kind of always is jarring. Instead of following the same characters and introducing more as you go, it's like the entire cast gets changed and our main character is completely different. And then I'm assuming that the characters we met in the first book would be background characters or referenced or mentioned somewhere throughout the book, but not our main focus. So let me know if you would like to pick up Sabriel. I definitely recommend it. It gets a language score of 10 out of 10. There's no swearing in it, which is refreshing. And it's a really great, clean book that's also kind of spooky and about the dead. So that was really fun. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.